Nobody saw this coming, not like this. What should have been just another quiet night flipped into something explosive in seconds. The kind of moment that doesn't just trend, it sticks. Because this time, it wasn't rumors, it wasn't hearsay, it wasn't someone telling a story after the fact. It was all on camera. Flashing lights cutting through the dark, voices raised, overlapping, tension thick enough to feel through a screen. And right in the center of it all, King Harris, standing face to face with authorities, clearly heated, clearly not backing down. But here's where it stops being a typical viral moment. Because the footage making rounds right now, it wasn't meant for the public. Not polished, not edited, not controlled. This was raw, unfiltered, and somehow it leaked. And the second it hit social media, everything exploded. Within minutes, timelines were flooded. Within hours, opinions turned into arguments, and arguments turned into chaos. Fans were confused, critics didn't hold back, and people close to the situation, they weren't just reacting, they were worried. Because what that clip shows isn't just an arrest. It shows something deeper, something personal. You can hear it in the voices, sharp, emotional, not controlled. You can see it in the body language, shifting, tense, unpredictable. And then there's that moment, the one people keep replaying, where everything looks like it might spiral completely out of control. But the most talked about part, that split-second exchange between T.I. and his son. It's quick, easy to miss if you're not paying attention, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Some viewers are calling it chilling. Others say it exposes tension that's been building for months, maybe longer. There's a look, a tone, something unspoken that feels heavier than the situation itself. And now the internet is asking a question that's not so easy to answer. Was this just an isolated incident? Or was this the moment everything finally broke? Because insiders are already hinting that what we saw in that clip might just be the beginning. And if that's true, then this situation isn't cooling down anytime soon. To understand why this moment is hitting so hard, you have to zoom out. Way out. Long before the flashing lights, before the viral footage, before the chaos. You have to understand who T.I. has been for years. Not just as an artist, but as a figure. For over 2 decades, he's built an image rooted in control, discipline, and leadership. He didn't just rise in music, he branded himself. King of the South, a title that came with expectations, structure, authority. And that image didn't stop with him. It extended to his family, especially his son. Now, King Harris was never the type to stay in the background. From early on, it was clear he wasn't interested in just being known as T.I.'s son. He wanted his own identity, his own voice, his own respect. And that's where things started getting complicated. Because independence doesn't always align with image. Behind the scenes, people have been whispering for months that things weren't as solid as they looked online. Sure, there were smiles for the cameras, family posts, moments that seemed united. But according to those close to the situation, there were disagreements. Real ones. About lifestyle, about behavior, about how things should be handled, both privately and publicly. And every time King made headlines, every time something controversial came out, it didn't just reflect on him. It reflected on his father. That pressure builds. Sources say it led to frustration, conversations that weren't calm, arguments that didn't stay quiet, attempts to pull things back under control that didn't always work. But King didn't step back. If anything, he leaned in. More posts, more statements, more moments that pushed boundaries. It started to feel less like random behavior and more like something intentional, like he was testing limits. Testing reactions, maybe even testing his father. Then came the social media clips, the ones fans couldn't ignore. Moments where his tone felt sharper, comments that hinted at something deeper, subtle lines that people started connecting back to family tension. At first, most people brushed it off. Typical father-son conflict. Nothing unusual. But then the pattern kept repeating. And it started to feel different. Not random. Not temporary. Layered. Then not long before this arrest footage surfaced, rumors started circulating. Quiet at first, hard to confirm, but consistent enough to raise eyebrows. Something had happened behind closed doors. Something serious. No one could say exactly what, but people noticed the shift. The energy between them changed. Interactions felt off. Conversations felt forced. The natural chemistry people were used to seeing, it didn't feel the same anymore. And then there was that live stream. The one fans keep bringing up, where King Harris appeared visibly irritated, not just frustrated, but done, dropping comments that many interpreted as more than just heat-of-the-moment reactions. Comments that felt directed, personal. Even if nothing was said outright, the tone said enough. And while T.I. didn't respond publicly, insiders say that moment didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it reportedly triggered a series of conversations behind the scenes. Conversations that only got more intense. About respect. About boundaries. About image. About control. And when those conversations don't get resolved, they don't disappear. They build. And eventually, they spill over. Which brings everything back to that night. The flashing lights. The voices. The moment caught on camera. Because maybe that wasn't the beginning. Maybe that was the result. And if that's true, then what we just saw isn't the full story. It's just the part that finally went public. Nobody expected it to unravel like this. Not in public, not this fast, and definitely not with cameras capturing every second. What looked like just another tense night suddenly turned into something much bigger, something that now has the entire internet dissecting every detail frame by frame. At the center of it all, T.I. and his son, King Harris, and what unfolded between them didn't feel like a random moment. It felt like a breaking point. Because here's the thing people are starting to realize. This wasn't just about that night. This wasn't just about authorities stepping in or voices getting loud. This was the result of something that had been building for a long time. According to multiple insider accounts, the tension didn't start when cameras began rolling. It started hours earlier. A heated argument, raised voices, the kind of disagreement that doesn't end cleanly. It lingers, it simmers, it follows you into the next moment. And by the time they found themselves in that public situation, everything was already hanging by a thread. Witnesses describe King as already on edge, not out of control, but clearly agitated, like something had been weighing on him long before anyone else noticed. And when authorities arrived, what should have been routine quickly turned complicated. At first, it looked manageable. Officers trying to de-escalate, keep things calm, maintain control. But then came the shift, the moment where tone changes everything. King pushed back, not physically, but with presence, with energy, with refusal. And that refusal, that's when the situation started slipping. Then T.I. stepped in. Now this is where everything gets layered, because people expected him to come in calm, controlled, authoritative, the way he's always presented himself publicly. But insiders say that's not what happened. Instead, he came in already frustrated. Not explosive, but clearly carrying something from earlier. And that energy immediately clashed with King's. For a brief moment, everything else faded into the background. Officers, noise, flashing lights, it didn't matter. It was just father and son standing face to face, both unwilling to back down. Then came the exchange. Not loud at first, not dramatic, just a few words, low, sharp, direct. The kind of words that don't need volume to hit hard. King said something that cut through the tension. T.I. responded instantly, louder, firmer. And just like that, the situation escalated from tense to unpredictable. You can see it in the footage, the shift in body language, the tightening of expressions, the way both of them stop holding back. At one point, T.I. reaches toward King, not aggressively but with intent, like he's trying to pull him out of the situation, regain control, end it before it spirals further. But King resists, and that resistance, that's the moment everything breaks open. Because once that happens, authorities step in harder, commands get louder, movements get faster, and within seconds, what was once a tense exchange turns into full-on chaos, both of them being restrained, voices overlapping, no one fully in control anymore. And then there's that moment, the one people can't stop replaying. In the middle of all the noise, all the movement, all the confusion, T.I. looks directly at King. And instead of anger, instead of frustration, people are seeing something else entirely. Disappointment. Real, visible, undeniable disappointment. And that's what hit people the hardest, because suddenly this didn't feel like just another viral incident. It felt personal, deeply personal, like this moment wasn't just about what was happening right then, but everything that led up to it. But just when people thought they understood what they were seeing, the situation took another turn. Because shortly after the footage went viral, a supposed audio clip started circulating online. Unverified, unconfirmed, but spreading fast. And according to those who have heard it, the clip was recorded earlier that same day. A conversation between T.I. and King, voices raised, emotions already high, and in the middle of it, a line that has completely dead the internet. You keep pushing this, it's not going to end how you think. Now that one sentence changed everything. Because people aren't just watching the footage anymore, they're connecting dots. Was that a warning, a threat, or something else entirely, maybe a desperate attempt to stop things from going too far? And if that audio is real, then what happened that night wasn't sudden. It wasn't unpredictable. It was building, inevitable even. That's why the conversation online has shifted. It's no longer just about the arrest or the footage or even the argument itself. It's about the bigger picture. How long has this tension been there? How much of it has been hidden behind public appearances? And most importantly, is this the moment everything finally reached a point of no return? Because right now, people aren't just reacting. They're analyzing, rewatching clips, breaking down body language, revisiting old interviews, looking for signs that maybe this didn't start here, it just finally became visible here. And the truth is, until there's something official, some clear explanation, some confirmed detail, everything remains in that space between fact and speculation. But one thing is certain. This wasn't just a moment. It was a release, a collision of pressure, pride, frustration, and history, all happening at once in front of the world. And if even part of what's being suggested is true, then this story isn't over. Not even close. What people first thought was just another viral arrest clip quickly turned into something far more serious, something layered, emotional, and impossible to ignore. Because as the footage of T.I. and King Harris spread across the internet, the narrative began to shift. This wasn't just about flashing lights or raised voices anymore. This was about a father and son on a collision course, and a moment that may have been building long before anyone hit record. But just when it seemed like people had pieced together what happened, a new detail surfaced. Subtle at first, easy to miss, but once people noticed it, everything changed again. Because buried in the footage, just off to the side, there appeared to be someone else. Not clearly visible, not fully identifiable, but present. And suddenly, the story got more complicated. Within hours, a second clip began circulating. This one didn't show the chaos. No sirens, no shouting, just the moments before everything spiraled. And the energy in that video, completely different. Tense, quiet, uncomfortable. You see King pacing back and forth, his movements sharp, restless, his jaw tight, his hands moving as if he's mid-argument, even when no one else is fully in frame. It's the kind of body language that tells you something serious is already happening. And then off to the side, that figure again. Blurry, partially hidden, but clearly not just a bystander. Some viewers claim you can hear a voice, low, direct, saying something that instantly sent the internet into a frenzy. You already know what this is about. Don't act like you don't. That one line changed everything. Because now this isn't just a father-son conflict. Now there's a third piece to the puzzle, someone else involved, someone who might know more than what's been seen so far. And the questions started pouring in. Who is that person? What role did they play? And more importantly, what exactly were they talking about? As expected, the internet did what it does best. It started digging. Within hours, anonymous posts began appearing across forums and social media. Normally, those kinds of posts get ignored. But this time, the details felt different, specific, almost too specific. One post in particular started gaining traction. It claimed that the confrontation that night wasn't just about attitude or behavior. It wasn't just about respect or public image. It was about money. According to this so-called insider, there had been a disagreement earlier that day involving a deal, something connected to King's growing independence, his decisions, his moves, his connections. Moves that allegedly T.I. didn't agree with. Now, if that's true, even partially, then this situation becomes something entirely different. Because this isn't just personal anymore. This is business. And when business gets mixed with family, things don't just get emotional, they get complicated, fast. Because now you're not just arguing as father and son. You're clashing as two individuals with different visions, different priorities, and different ideas about control. And according to these rumors, that disagreement didn't stay calm for long. It escalated. Voices raised, accusations thrown, tension building to the point where people nearby had to step in just to keep things from going too far. And suddenly, something else in the footage starts to make sense. If you watch closely, right before authorities intervene, you can see multiple people in the background, some trying to calm King down, others looking toward T.I., almost like they're waiting for him to take control of the situation. But by that point, control was already slipping. And then came another twist. Because just hours after the footage went viral, a verified account, someone known within the industry, posted a message that added even more fuel to the fire. Y'all really think this started tonight? This been brewing, and it ain't even about what you think. No names, no context. But the timing, impossible to ignore. And just like that, the internet connected the dots. Old clips resurfaced, interviews got reanalyzed, past moments between King and T.I. suddenly felt different. More loaded, more revealing. People started noticing a pattern. Moments where King talked about wanting independence. Moments where T.I. emphasized discipline, structure, control. Moments where their perspectives didn't just differ, they clashed. And now, with this new footage, these alleged leaks, and those cryptic messages floating around, the narrative has shifted again. Because what people are starting to believe is this. What we saw that night wasn't random. It wasn't sudden. It was a breaking point. The moment where everything that had been building behind the scenes finally collided in public. But just when it felt like things couldn't get any more intense, another revelation surfaced. Late that same night, reports began circulating about a private conversation between T.I. and King after the arrest. No cameras, no audience. Just the two of them. And according to someone claiming to be close to the situation, it didn't go well. In fact, they described it as the worst it's ever been. Not loud chaos, not public drama, just raw, unfiltered emotion. The kind of conversation where things get said that can't be taken back. Words that hit deeper than anything caught on camera. Now, no one has confirmed exactly what was said. But the idea alone has people concerned. Because if things were already this intense in public, what does it look like behind closed doors? And more importantly, can it even be fixed? Or has something been said, something done, that pushed this relationship past the point of no return? Right now, the internet isn't just reacting to a viral moment. It's watching something unfold in real time. A relationship under pressure. A family dynamic exposed. A situation that keeps evolving with every new detail, every new clip, every new theory. And the truth is, nobody knows what happens next. But one thing is clear. This story isn't slowing down. If anything, it's just getting started. Everything reached a new level the moment that second clip hit. Up until then, people thought they were watching a viral incident, just another chaotic moment caught on camera. But once that footage surfaced, everything changed. This wasn't just a trending topic anymore. This became a full-blown cultural moment. Social media didn't just react, it erupted. Timelines flooded within minutes. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. And suddenly, everyone had something to say about T.I. and King Harris. But what made this situation even more intense wasn't just the footage, it was the divide. Because people weren't just watching anymore, they were choosing sides. On one side, you had supporters standing firmly behind T.I. posts, started trending almost instantly. People argued that he had been trying to guide his son for years, that raising a child in the spotlight comes with pressure most people can't even imagine. To them, what happened looked like a father stepping in when things got out of control. A man pushed to his limit, trying to restore order in a situation spiraling too fast. But on the other side, the tone was completely different. Critics came in hard. They questioned whether what people were calling guidance was actually control. They pointed to the tension, the resistance, the public nature of the moment. Some argued that this kind of pressure could be exactly what led to the explosion everyone witnessed. And just like that, the narrative split wide open. Was this a father trying to discipline his son? Or a father losing control of a situation that had been building for too long? And right in the middle of it all was King. Because while people debated T.I.'s role, a completely different conversation started forming around King Harris himself. Some saw him as reckless, rebellious, someone pushing boundaries too far, too fast without thinking about the consequences. But others saw something deeper. Frustration, pressure, a young man trying to carve out his own identity while living under the weight of a massive legacy. And that perspective started gaining traction fast. Because once people began digging, old clips resurfaced. Interviews, live streams, past arguments, moments that once felt random now seemed connected. And suddenly the conversation shifted from what happened that night to how long has this been building. That's when things got even more intense. Because now it wasn't just about one moment. It was about years of tension, years of expectations, and a relationship that might not have been as stable as it looked from the outside. And then the industry stepped in. That's when everything escalated again. Because once people from inside those circles started reacting, the tone changed instantly. It became less about speculation and more about implication. An anonymous producer posted something that caught attention. Fame and family don't mix well when boundaries aren't clear. A radio personality hinted that the situation was bigger than what people were seeing. And then came the post that really shook things. A verified artist, someone connected to the same industry circles, wrote a short but powerful message. No names, no direct callouts, just a statement about how situations like this happen when private issues spill into public spaces. That was enough, because now people weren't just analyzing the footage. They were trying to decode meaning behind every reaction, every silence, every post. Who was siding with who? Who knew more than they were saying? And what was being kept hidden? Then the media picked it up. First blogs, then larger outlets. Headlines started forming rapidly, each one adding another layer to the narrative. What started as a viral clip turned into a full-scale story about family dynamics, public pressure, and the cost of living life in the spotlight. And once mainstream coverage kicked in, the pressure skyrocketed. Because now silence wasn't just noticeable, it was loud. People were waiting, refreshing timelines, looking for statements, explanations, apologies, anything that could bring clarity to what they had just witnessed. But nothing came. No official response. No clear explanation. Just silence. And that silence, it made everything worse. Because when people don't get answers, they start creating their own. Theories started spreading. Some grounded, some completely wild, but all feeding into the same thing: uncertainty. And that uncertainty kept the story alive. Growing, expanding, reaching more people by the minute. Because now, this wasn't just about what happened, it was about what it meant. For the family, for their image, for everything they've built over the years. And just when it felt like the story had reached its peak, it didn't. It shifted again. Because late the next morning, while everything was still trending, while debates were still raging, and while people were still waiting for answers, a new clip surfaced. And this one felt different immediately. Short, grainy, almost like it wasn't meant to exist at all. According to the account that posted it, this footage was taken after the arrest, not before. And that alone raised questions. How did someone even get this? And why release it now? In the clip, the environment is completely different. No chaos, no shouting, just a quiet, controlled space that appears to be a holding area. And sitting there, alone, is King. Head slightly down, shoulders still, no movement, no reaction. Just silence. And that image hit people in a way the earlier footage didn't. Because for the first time, the chaos was gone. The adrenaline, the confrontation, the noise, it was all stripped away. What was left was reality. Not a viral moment. Not a debate. Just a young man sitting alone after everything had already happened. And suddenly, the entire narrative shifted again. Because now people weren't just arguing or analyzing. They were thinking, reconsidering everything they had just seen. Because in that quiet moment, it didn't look like rebellion. It didn't look like control. It looked like something else entirely. And that's why this story isn't slowing down. If anything, it's only getting deeper. Hands clasped, head slightly lowered, completely still. That's what made the moment hit so differently. Because just minutes earlier, the internet had watched chaos unfold, voices raised, tension exploding, emotions spilling out in real time. But now, in this quiet, almost forgotten corner of the situation, everything had changed. The energy was gone. The defiance people thought they understood, nowhere to be seen. For a few seconds, nothing happens. No movement, no sound, just silence. And then a voice from off camera. You can't make out the words clearly, but whatever was said, it mattered. Because slowly, almost hesitantly, King lifts his head. And in that moment, people saw something they weren't expecting. Not anger, not frustration, something deeper, something heavier. Regret, real, visible regret. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, But it was there, and that's what made it powerful. Because up until that point, the narrative had been built around tension, rebellion, conflict. But this cracked that image wide open. And then, just before the clip cuts off, he says something quiet, almost like he didn't even mean for anyone to hear it. This wasn't supposed to happen. That one line changed everything. Because now the story isn't just about what did happen, it's about what was supposed to happen. And suddenly, every theory that had been floating around starts to feel different. The argument earlier that day, the rumored disagreement, the mysterious third person seen in earlier footage. All of it starts connecting in a new way. Because if this wasn't supposed to happen, then something went wrong, something shifted, something spiraled out of control. And just when people were trying to process that, another twist dropped. A post, unverified but spreading fast. The kind of post that people usually ignore, except this time they didn't, because the timing was too precise and the details felt too specific. According to the account, what happened after the arrest might be even more serious than what the public saw. There was a conversation, a private one. No cameras, no audience, just raw, unfiltered emotion between father and son. And according to this source, it didn't go well, not even close. In fact, they described it as the worst it's ever been. And then came the part that really shook people. The idea that decisions were being discussed, not temporary reactions, not emotional responses in the heat of the moment, real decisions. Long-term ones. The kind that don't just affect one night, but everything moving forward. The post claimed that people close to the situation were considering creating distance, not just physically but publicly, structurally, changing how things appear, how things operate, maybe even how often they're seen together. And just like that, the tone of the entire situation shifted again. Because up until now, no matter how messy things got, one belief stayed consistent. Family was solid, unbreakable, untouchable. But this suggests something else entirely. Something fragile, something close to the edge. And what makes it even more intense is the silence. No statements, no denials, no clarifications, nothing. And that silence, it's louder than anything that's been said so far. Because when there are no answers, people start filling in the gaps themselves. Theories grow, assumptions spread, and uncertainty takes over. Now the question is just what happened? It's what happens next. Is this the moment everything actually breaks? Or is this just a pause before something even bigger unfolds? Because if there's one thing this situation has shown, it's that every time it feels like the full story is out, another layer appears. Another clip, another detail, another twist. And right now, there are more questions than answers. More tension than resolution. More uncertainty than clarity. But one thing is clear. This isn't just a viral moment anymore. This is something unfolding in real time. A situation that's evolving with every hour, every reaction, every new piece of information that surfaces. So now it comes down to perspective. What do you think this really is? Was this just a moment that spiraled too far, too fast? Or is this something deeper, something that's been building long before any camera started recording? Was this a father trying to step in and regain control? Or a situation that had already gone too far for anyone to fix? And what about that final clip? Did you see regret? Or do you think there's still more to the story that hasn't been revealed yet? Because right now, the internet is split, and people aren't holding back. Some are defending, some are criticizing, and others are just watching, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle. But if everything we've seen so far is any indication, this story isn't slowing down. If anything, it's just getting started.